What's up, you guys? I'm Dan, this is Frugal Not Cheap, and today we'll talk about high yield savings accounts. So, two things got me thinking about making today's video. The first was in my previous video about how credit card rewards are serious business. I was talking about how it seemed strange to me that a lot of people just thought that signing up for credit cards and meeting the minimum spend would be just too much work. I didn't really get that idea, so a lot of that video is to show you, you can really earn a lot with these sign-up bonuses as long as you're the right kind of person. You can do this in a disciplined fashion and make it make sense. Then it's really not much effort. And similarly, I've talked to people in the past who really have a reticence to use an online savings account. They really want to have that kind of brick and mortar thing going on in banking. So I kind of want to touch on that a little bit in today's video, because the alternative, these brick and mortar banks have pretty abysmal interest rates. And then the other part is that in my last video, I talked about how I have a relatively small emergency fund. So an emergency fund is an account that's got 3 to 6 months of your expenses in cash. That's there in case you have some kind of emergency like job loss or an accident or what have you. Anyway, a great place to park those emergency funds, of course, is high yield savings accounts. That way you'll be able to keep up with inflation, but it will also be in cash, so it will be there right when you need it. So there are a lot of options out there when it comes to high yield savings accounts. Many of the names actually now I'm not even familiar with, but one place I used to go all the time was bankrate.com. You can also probably find a decent list on NerdWallet and many other places. And as you can see here, these places pay a much higher APY than the brick and mortar banks do. And while we're at it, APY means annual percentage yield. This is how much interest you get paid. Whereas on credit cards, the APR is the annual percentage rate. In other words, the amount that you have to pay them, the amount of interest that you're charged. All right, so what are my considerations for a good high yield savings account? Well, one, of course, they've got to be FDIC insured, right? That's super important. So that there's going to be insurance there in case the bank goes under, you're still going to get your money. The next thing is that it has a decent reputation. Yeah, I mean, one would do well to kind of do their research and make sure that, it's a good company that's not going to screw you over in some way. Definitely looking to make sure they have low or no fees and that kind of thing. Really, this day and age, paying any kind of fees to have accounts just makes no sense. In pretty much everything that I do financially, I expect to be paid for them to have me as a customer. So my checking account pays interest, my savings account pays interest. Of course, all of my investment accounts are earning dividends or appreciating value over the long run as well. And then my credit cards are all earning me rewards points, right? So things have really changed sort of in that landscape in a more consumer-friendly way, as long as you're in the subset of consumers that behaves the way that we do, right? Followers of this kind of lifestyle. Yep, so good reputation and good practices. And then the third thing I would think would be a good interface, because a lot of stuff these days, especially with the online-only ones, this is your only point of contact, and it's really important that they have a good interface, either a good app or a good website and that kind of thing. So again, there's many of them out there, but there are 3 that I've used personally. One I used a long time ago. This is E-Trade. I don't know what their savings accounts rate are like. I'll put them up on the screen here. But the 2 that I have more recent experience with, one is Ally Bank, and I actually have my emergency fund still with them. You can see at the time of this filming, they're offering a 2% APY. That's been coming up as the Fed has been raising rates. And in fact, I'm filming this on the 20th of September, and the Fed is set to raise rates probably, we think, by another 75 basis points on the 21st. You'll know once you're seeing this video, but most likely those rates did go up. Anyway, I'm very happy with them. They have a good interface and no fees, so I'm really happy. Another option, and a place where I've had a savings account before, is Capital One. They used to have it branded as the Capital One 360. I don't know if they've gotten rid of that branding or what have you, but they're also paying a 2% APY, so these guys are all really competitive. And a nice benefit is, whereas Ally is online only, Capital One does have some brick and mortar locations that you can go visit, so that might be preferable to some of you. Now, there is one issue to consider when selecting where to put your emergency savings account or having this high yield savings account, and that is any delay between when you can access those funds. So let's say you picked Ally Bank. Well, if you had both your checking and your savings at Ally Bank, which I have in the past, it worked very well, and their checking account does pay interest as well, by the way, then you can transfer immediately, instantaneously between those accounts. Of course, all savings accounts have a limit on how many times you can take money out within a period of time. That's to, it's supposed to be a savings, right? So yeah, that'll be common across all of them. But again, if you've got both at the same place, then you can transfer those funds right away, and then you'd have the cash on hand in your checking account to take care of any emergency. Now, on the other hand, let's say that you had your savings account over at Ally, but you had your checking account at Capital One because you like to have the, few physical locations. Well, then it might take 2 business days or so in order to get the money from your Ally savings over to your Capital One account. And that could be inconvenient if you needed to have the cash on hand right away. Now, in my situation, it is like that. I have my emergency fund at Ally Bank, and I've got my checking account with Charles Schwab, and they're both mostly online only. There's a location here now, but there aren't that many. But I'm not worried about that because that 2 business day gap can be filled, first of all, by credit cards, right? I don't carry any debt, so I've got that as something where I can, charge whatever the merchant is and then pay it right off. And then second, because I have 1 month's worth of expenses as a buffer in my checking account, above and beyond what I know I'm going to need for, upcoming bills. And so I'm very comfortable meeting any kind of emergency that way. So up to you, whichever you think might work better for you. If there are any great high yield savings accounts out there that you know about, that you think other people should know about, let us know in the comments. Hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.